bring in James Dorsey. He's an adjunct senior fellow at the Rajaratnam School of International Studies in Singapore. Before we move on to the ceasefire itself, I just want to start with these significant attacks by Hezbollah on Israel, described as some of the most significant in weeks. I wondered if you thought whether this was just a coincidence, or is this a sign of Hezbollah being able to regroup in the, 6 weeks or so since those attacks in September, which killed their leaders and struck some of their weapons stores, left them in disarray. Those attacks, of course, are on devices like walkie-talkies as well, that clearly affected the group badly.
I think what is clear is that despite the severe body blows that Israel has administered to Hezbollah, the group is still incapable of maintaining a degree of command and control, and capable of putting up a credible fight. I think one thing one has to keep in mind, of course, is that Israel's war goals in Lebanon are different from its war goals in Gaza. In other words, yes, Israel would like to destroy destroy Hezbollah in the way it wants to destroy Hamas, but destroying Hezbollah is less of a sine qua non to Israel than destroying Hamas. And therefore, what your correspondent was referring to, a ceasefire would give Netanyahu a visible victory, because you would see the return of tens of thousands of Israeli evacuees returning to their homes on the border with Lebanon.
So do you think then, are you optimistic that some kind of ceasefire deal with Hezbollah can be agreed possibly before the end of the year or by January?
I think the key to what we're hearing in terms of the negotiations is Israel has demanded all along that it would retain the right to intervene in Lebanon in violation of Lebanese sovereignty if and when it felt that Hezbollah was violating a ceasefire, or the Lebanese government was incapable of implementing it. That was something that neither the Lebanese government nor Hezbollah was willing to accept, or is willing to accept. So what we're doing now is going back to a formula that has been used in the past in US-mediated negotiations between Israelis and Arabs, which is Israel's demands are not incorporated into the agreement with Lebanon, but they're incorporated into a letter between the United States and Israel, in which the United States essentially agrees to these Israeli demands. Now, the question is here whether Hezbollah and the Lebanese government, but particularly Hezbollah, is willing to engage in a face-saving solution that allows both parties to claim that their demands were met.
And of course, one of the key demands, separate from what you mentioned there about Israel being able to intervene, is both the movement of Hezbollah beyond the Litani River and the disarmament of Hezbollah. I wonder, where does it leave the group, which is primarily a military or paramilitary function, if you like? Where does Hezbollah stand if it's disarmed?
Well, before I get into the disarmament, to be fair to Hezbollah, they are a significant political force in Lebanon. And even if they were disarmed, they would retain their political influence and power. They're members of the parliament. They're represented in government. So it's much more than just simply a military group. The Israelis, as a matter of principle, want Hezbollah to be disarmed. They interpret United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701 that was adopted in 2006 at the end of the Lebanon War as mandating the disarmament of Hezbollah. Hezbollah doesn't interpret it that way. It interprets it as pulling back its armed forces from the border with Israel. What de facto the Israelis appear to be willing to accept in a ceasefire agreement now is that withdrawal from of Hezbollah to north of the Litani River, 30 kilometers north of the Israeli border. And while they will continue to demand disarmament, that's not going to be what makes or breaks this agreement at this point.
Okay, all right. James Dorsey with that analysis from Singapore. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time on TRT World.
Charlotte, pleasure to be with you.